Hello internet, and welcome to another stream. This week I'm still working on the Gryffindor jacket, and what I've done over the past week is that I've put together most of the lining. I still need to stitch in the hood, and I also pinned a little bit more on the hood for the actual outside of the jacket, so hopefully today I can get the lining put in. Hopefully all the way, but I'm not sure. Like last week I made some decisions about how much of a folded back edge there would be on the hood, and it's going to be different from the facing that's on the inside of the front of the jacket. So I'm not entirely been able to wrap my brain around how that's going to go together. So first thing I'm going to do is stitching the hood to the jacket of the lining and leaving the last bit open, because I expect that I will be needing to do some amount of origami to get all of that to fit together in the end. So I'm just going to leave it open and maybe hand stitch it closed once everything is in place. So let's just start with that and see how far we get today. I'm quite proud of the progress I made sort of in between streams. I basically cut and assembled the entire lining except for the hood. Spent like an hour last night pinning to get the sleeves in. There's a little bit of puckering on them, but honestly, since it's the lining, I'll allow it. Let's see if we can continue the honestly pretty decent streak of assembling this so far. One thing that might be worth mentioning is that the lining is in some places a little bit bigger than the original jacket, and that's to make sure that it doesn't pull on anything. Like if the lining is anywhere just a bit smaller than the real jacket, or like the outer jacket I guess you could call it, then it's gonna sort of pull on the fabric of the jacket, and that's like the last thing you want out of your lining. So, for example, oops, dropped a pin. For example, here, I'm not sure you can see that. Here on the center back, there's a tiny pleat where I've just given it a couple extra millimeters to make sure that it just sits comfortably on the back. See if that's stitched anywhere near the line. Yeah, it's a little bit off here and there because the fabric is really slippery, but honestly, it's good enough. So then let's get rid of the red thread and put on some black to do the hood on the outside of the jacket. Haha! I think this was the last of the red that I needed to stitch, and I had exactly this much red left on the bobbin. Better lucky than good. think I might also want to swap out the needle because this is a really thin one. What? Oh, that's where it went. I just found a pin, like, inside my machine. It's a pin that slipped out of the fabric when I was stitching earlier, and I just couldn't find where it went. I think it went through a hole in the stitch plate. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Cool. Nice that that didn't jam up my machine in any way. So now I'm just stitching together the hood, and afterwards I'll have to attach it to the neckline of the jacket. That was one side, and now the other one. I'm loving this fabric. It comes together so easily. Alright, that should be the hood assembled. I just need to trim down the seam allowances a bit because these are really chunky, and if you turn that outside out, it just stands up and gets all frumpy like this, so. Let's trim this down. Just got to make sure that it's short enough not to get all chunky, but long enough to strongly hold the seam line. Because it staying together is kind of one of the main features of any piece of clothing. Alright, now let's attach the hood to the rest of the jacket. which I've got over here. So let's see, right sides together goes like this. I just gotta quickly pin it into place. And if I recall correctly, I went up exactly to the center front line and not into the little overlap that's there for the buttons. So I just gonna mark exactly where the hood should stop. Am I doing this the right way? Sure. So as always, just lining up the corners and the markings first, and then arranging everything else. I've got a mark on the hood for where the shoulder seam should be. Like where the hood should meet the shoulder seam of the jacket. So I think that's it. And then I should have probably marked the midpoint, but I didn't. So I guess it's straight to the other shoulder point here. Alright. Whoops. It's already falling apart. No. Like, I just poked the pin straight through to get the points to line up, but it's not a very firm hold, so let's get some extra pins in here to keep them in place. This is not properly lined up at all. Come on. Please work. I like that this thing is heavy enough to sort of stand up on its own like this. It's definitely comfortable to work with. So the neckline of the jacket here is a bit more curved than the edge of the hood, which is why I'm struggling a little bit to get everything lined up. But I think I got it now. Oh, come on. Please work. That's better. What the? The first point I poked the pin through fit great, and then the second one where it came up is awful. Alright. Slowly getting there. Now that I'm here at the shoulder seam, actually, though, maybe I should have ironed this before doing this, so it would nice and flat. What? Oh, my words. I needed to lie nice and flat. There we go, brain. I'll just press it a bit with my fingers. Jam a couple of pins in there to keep it flat or something. These are excellent pins to like stab myself with later, because I'll forget that they're there. Alright, let's try this again. So is anyone watching this currently also working on a craft project that they'd like to share with the chat, or... I folded this towards the center. Did I do that on the lining as well? I folded it outwards on this. I guess that's fine. This is honestly a bit of an awkward curve. Maybe I should mark the midpoint on both, because I feel like it would be easier to line up that way. Alright, so... we're here, and... on the jacket, the middle is where exactly? I think I'm better off just folding it. Here-ish. Okay. Then let's align these center lines first. And then do this weird curvy part. I think I'm gonna need to clip into the seam allowances a bit to get this to sit nicely. Okay, I think this pin fits all right. Now what about the rest of it? Could be worse. Going across this seam, it's quite a sharp turn. It's a little difficult to get it lined up. But then again, once I stitch it, it's not going to be as noticeable, is it? Once you remove all those edges, like all those markings, no one will know where you screwed up exactly. Unless you screwed up by a lot, but it's my firm ambition not to screw up by a lot. It's kind of my ambition to screw up just enough that I can get away with. Oh, and I've also got that other shoulder seam to open up. Come on. Be nice, jacket. Gotta make sure to keep hydrated, you know, in these trying times. Wait, what? This is not lining up at all. I have my shoulder seam marking and it's not even close. How did that happen? I only pinned this much. How can I be off just on this little bit? What is this? Crazy stuff. Alright, I guess that's okay now. Just one more pin, I guess. Or two, maybe. Alright, I think this is good enough to stitch. Let's do it. And I'm gonna start and stop exactly on the end instead of, like, normally you'd maybe do a little sort of run into, like, from the edge of the fabric. But I'm not, because I need the rest of the center front of the jacket to stay clear, so I can fold it back to do the facing. I'm not sure if that makes sense. I mean, I know it makes sense, but I'm not sure I explained it in an understandable way. What I'm trying to say is I am not stitching to the edge of the fabric because I need that edge of the fabric to fold over, and I need it to not be stitched down to anything else. Why is the machine continuously making weird noises? Like, what is this? Uh-oh. I'm losing one of the pins here. I need you to get back into the fabric, my friend. This feels really chunky. Please don't have, like, I'm trying not to get anything caught on itself or on pieces of fabric that it shouldn't be caught on. But it's just really bulky around here. Alright, I think that's it for attaching the hood. Just gonna check from the outside whether it looks reasonable. It looks like the stitching is a bit off of the shoulder line here, but it's the same on the other side, which I guess is because of the weird corner that's happening here. So I'm not sure how bad that is. I'm gonna just trim these seam allowances, and it's unfortunate that I can't try it on because it's a bit too large, too small for me. I'm a bit too big for it. I kind of want to see how it looks on a person. But since it's for a very small person, I don't have such a person to hand. Okay, so let's just pretend it's a jacket. I'm just gonna hold it by the shoulders and see what happens with the hood. It looks kind of normal, I think. You can't actually see that. Here it is, flopping from the back. Let's just... I find it acceptable. Let's move on. Because I'm trying to get this lining into it today. And I need to wrap my brain around the order in which I'm going to do that exactly. Because basically the plan is that the bottom edge is going to be folded up and the lining isn't going to start right at the bottom. It's going to start a little bit higher up so that you don't get the lining like peeping out at your butt. So that is a thing that I need to do some math about. So I've cut a very generous seam allowance here to allow for that extra space. And I've cut 0 seam allowance, or just about 0 seam allowance on the lining, so that it can go sort of get folded under a little bit and end up something like this. So if I stitch it together along the bottom edge, oh yeah, what's gonna happen with these corners? So when you reach the front edge, then the center front is gonna get folded over like this. And I want that sort of mitered corner that maybe if you've seen my, what's it called? Waistcoat videos, that kind of thing, where you fold in the corners so that they meet in a nice sort of diagonal seam here. So if I want to do that with the lining attached to both of those things, I guess what I should do is stitch stitch the lining to the front edge, then do the corner thing, then stitch the lining to the bottom edge? Because I have a feeling that otherwise I'm not going to get the lining. Like if I have to eyeball exactly where I need to stitch the lining so that it will meet exactly in the corner, that's just going to be a nightmare. So I think that's the way it should go. And I've also got the hood to deal with. I'm just kind of trying to wrap my brain around the notion of how this lining thing is gonna work. I know that in sort of traditional bagged linings, they leave a gap in the sleeves and they can turn the whole thing outside out through that. I'm trying to wrap my brain around how that works. I think it works. But I would have to stuff the entire jacket through this tiny hole, which kind of worries me a little bit. I guess it should be possible. I'm gonna start by pressing these seams open before I lose a chance to do that, because I've been putting that off. So let's start with that. And I think then I can do the entire outside edge, sort of right sides facing, and then flip the whole thing out. And the one thing that I'm going to skip that's going to keep it open is going to be the edges of the sleeve, which I'm not going to be stitching together in the same way, because they are going to be bound with the ribbon I made 2 weeks ago. So I think it checks out. So I'm going to start with doing the front edges and the edges of the hood, and then figure it out from there, I think. Oh, and also I need to remove this pin before it becomes impossible to do that. Let's see, anything else that I need to press? I guess the darts and the sleeves would have been nice to press before I stitched the whole thing together. Oh, I hate myself sometimes. Because those sleeves are tiny. Let's see if I can still do them. Sorry about that. Oh, I also need to maybe trim these seam allowances. That would be nice. Wow. I put off so many annoying jobs the last time I worked on this. Because this is chunky. This is gonna get in the way of like... Not really of your arm, I guess, but in the way of the arm side looking nice when you're wearing it. All right. Let's jam this onto onto my sleeve board and see what we can do. This sleeve is so small. But it fits on. It fits on. We're good. I guess that's decent. And then there's also the dart in here somewhere. Come on, move! Please move. There we go. Good enough. Then let's get the other sleeve, which I'm guessing is going to need similar treatment. I'm going to try not to cut any holes in it while I'm doing this. That would be very sad. But I'm in that mood where, like, stuff needs to get done now. And my patience is a little bit thin. It's exactly the kind of mood where you make screw-ups that set you back hours, days into your project. And or cut yourself literally into the fingers. All right. Get on there. I'm gonna have to spend a night just picking at these threads as well. This is such a wrestling match, and it's such a small jacket as well. Alright, that'll have to do. So, I think that's all the prep I needed for the lining. Let's unplug this. Okay, so theoretically, I put this right side out. I put the lining like that, like this. I think I said I was going to do the center front first, right? Let's do that. So both of the sleeves are gonna get folded into the center a little bit. Center front's laying flat. Smush everything else in the middle. Okay, what's underneath here? Oh, just some offcut pieces. We're good. And then let's see. I cut this extra flap where this is the center front line. This is where it's gonna fold back so that there is a little bit of overlap for the buttons to go on. And then there's gonna be a bunch on the inside, and then the lining is gonna start. So where should I stitch these two together? How wide are the buttons again? So if we put the buttons here, basically on the back I want at least 4 centimeters until the lining starts. So I'm just gonna draw that line in. I'm pretty sure I did this math before and I just forgot to like mark this somewhere. Oh wait, maybe I also need to consider what is happening to this little corner. It's like right here on the jacket. That is gonna need to get folded back like this, stitched, and then folded back out. But I think it's better to do that after I stitch the lining on? Question mark, is that true? Yeah, I think it is. Yes. Yeah, because after I stitch it that way, it's gonna be hard to fold it back like this and make it larger. I think that checks out. Okay, so where is now on the lining? Wait. This should go this way down. On the lining, this edge, which I cut on the selvage of the fabric, was representing the center front when I cut it. So, sort of in lining this up, let's do this full. So this sort of matches up with here, if you mirror it exactly on the center front. And then we end up, once this is folded back, it ends up 2 centimeters inside the center front. And that's where this needs to come in. So 2 centimeters from this edge is where it should be. Wait, why am I drawing this on the right side of the fabric? I won't be able to see that when I'm pinning. I'm being very practical today. Let's do the same on the other side. Okay, now let's mark that 2 centimeter line from the center fronts here, also on the wrong side of the fabric so I can see it while I'm pinning. This fabric is so slippery though, it's hard to get it to just even sit in a straight line. Like one day I will get good at figuring out how to put linings together so you just stitch them in one go, flip the whole thing, and it works perfectly. But for now I'm gonna have to do it one step at a time and flip it outwards every step of the way just to check that what I'm doing makes sense. I would rather, you know, check twice whether I'm still on the right track. Hey! Good morning, Space Warfare Development. Did I say morning? Yeah, there's some critical thinking going on about how jacket linings work again. Because my brain is not fully wrapped itself around that yet. But I think that I've got the first step figured out, and that it's gonna come together at some point. I think I've reached a point where I'm convinced it's possible. I just need to sort of work out where to begin. Or what, well, I think I've also worked out where to begin. It's more about double checking that it still works after every step I take, because I don't fully trust the plan. Alright, that's one side pinned. I'll just also do the other one at the same time. This is gonna get really frumpy, I think. I'm sure this is easier on bigger jackets, where you don't really have to deal with, well, I don't know, where you have more space to tuck away all the stuff you're not currently working on. Feels like it's gonna go wrong. I don't know. Let's see if this comes out. Alright, I think that's ready to stitch. Let's do it and hope for the best. And after that, I'll have to figure out how exactly I'm going to do those sort of mitered corners. I feel like I should know how to do it by now because I did it on the waistcoat and that all worked out with the lining and everything. It's just that I kind of forgot how. I'm not even 100% convinced that I did the center fronts before doing the corners, but eh. There's usually more than one way to get something done, so let's hope that this is one of those cases. I'm not sure that I should have stitched that all the way to the bottom. I have a feeling that's going to cause trouble. Or is it just going to fold back the same way the corner is? We'll see. Well, let's do some folding right now to figure out whether I should have done that or not. So, whoops. So if I'm going to be turning this outside out, and this is going to fold here. And I'm going to fold what? It's not going to fold there. Lies. That's the center front line. That's not the fold line. I have a feeling I've made that mistake before. Maybe in one of the mock-ups, and it was bad. Alright. So, the center front is going to be folded like this. Then, this is going to be folded up. So what I want to do first is open it up again. Get the corner like this, folded like this, and then stitched, wait. I'm gonna do a 45-degree angle. I feel like I should do, once it's folded in, I don't want it to sit exactly like this. I want it to sit, I think, more like this. So the edge of the lining ends up closer to the edge of the bottom of the jacket, meaning that this needs to be quite a shallow corner and then, okay. So if I just pick a kind of arbitrary angle like that, and then I fold it on the corner in such a way that those two lines line up. Let me just put 1 or 2 pins in there. Then I'm going to fold it back out This is not lighting up for shit. Come on. That's more like it, I guess. Now, if I've stitched it like that, and then I flip it like this. Ow! Why am I doing this? Goddamn pins. In theory, it comes out yeah, that does check out. Everything is fine. I mean, it looks a bit frumpy now because it's held together with pins, but this is pretty much exactly the way I need this to be in the end. Okay. So I can stitch it all the way to the bottom, and then I just need to replicate this angle on the other side. And then it'll be all nice and even and perfect. Theoretically. That's good to hear that I'm not the only one who's like, lighting goes where? Because the principle sounds so easy. Like, it's just the same garment, just inside out on the other side, and you stitch them together. It's exactly the same, right? But no, it's never exactly the same. Because the lining doesn't start exactly at the edge. But I feel that I've now worked out that at least this part is going to work. So it's good news. So how did your bomber jacket come out? Did it work in the end? Alright. Now I feel that before I need to do the mitered corners, I'm gonna mark the bottom edge for where that should meet the lining. Because otherwise these corners are gonna be all frumpy and it's gonna be hard to lie flat. So let's work that out. This is marked to be the bottom edge. This is where it's gonna fold. It's gonna fold back. I want, let's say, 1 centimeter of nothing, then 1 centimeter where the lining is sort of folded over on itself. You know, I wanted to here's a scrap to demonstrate. If the lining is coming in from the top, I want it to sort of be folded back a little bit and be stitched down sort of here on the inside, like this, so that there's a little bit of give here. So it can slide around a bit. I think that's sort of nice and loose to allow the outside of the jacket to do its thing. So how does that work if I flip it this way and have to stitch it? So it's going to be folded. Leave 1 centimeter. 1 centimeter overlap. So here we're stitching at 2 centimeters from the edge then. And on the lining, that means we're going up to here, down to there, and then 1 more to go back. So it would be on the edge. Which is actually not quite what I can do because I cut it right on the edge. So I'm going to need a little bit more space. So if I give it 1.5 from the bottom edge, then one up, one down. That means the lining is gonna come in here, then go down by one, up by one, and be stitched 1/2 centimeter from the edge. I think that checks out. So I'm gonna draw a line 2.5 from the bottom and stitch the lining at 1/2 centimeter from its bottom. And then when it all flips back out, it works. I think that checks out. It's gonna be, that foldy backy thingy, is that gonna work in the corners? I think it is. It might not be stitched all the way to the edge, but I think it's gonna work. All right, chalk. So 2.5 from here. Oh, this edge is not entirely straight, is it? I remember now. Kind of hard to see where I am as well. I think this edge is slightly rounded. So I'm just gonna do this in sections. One day I will have made enough jackets to know exactly what order this all happens in, but today is not that day. Is it back? Is this straight? That is straight. Okay. Please lie flat. Please be nice to me. I hope this line, like this fabric doesn't hold the chalk particularly well, so I just hope that this holds up long enough for me to be able to pin and stitch it, which is potentially a bigger ask than you might think. But I'll see how it goes. Worst case, you can always like eyeball it and hand stitch it, I guess. I don't want to, but I could. Okay, now the corners. I can still faintly. So if I want to stick to my own 1.5 centimeters that I just decided, then theoretically the lining should be exactly there when the corner ends, right? So if I'm folding this over and then that over, and I want there to be 1.5 centimeters before the lining starts, then I need to choose that angle in such a way that it does exactly that. So I guess that means that if we go 4 centimeters in from here, let's do geometry, kinda. This is where the lining will start. And from there, it needs to go 1.5 centimeters this way, making this the point that the line needs to cross. And so that should go like this. I'm just aggressively marking that so I'm sure it doesn't come out. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. This is actually sort of easier, makes more sense than I thought. Here's the edge. Down by 1.5 is right there. All right, let's do these. Yeah, I think mitered corner thinking is one of the more, like, it's easy when the corner is 45 degrees, because then you can just draw a straight line and stitch it together. It gets more annoying if the corner is not, 90 degrees. If the corner is not 90 degrees, then it gets real awkward. And you'd have to, if this is like a smaller corner maybe, you basically have to draw where you want the seam line to go and then mirror it on the nearest seam, or mirror it on the nearest edge, which is doable, but it took me a while to figure out that that's how to do it. But yeah, sewing is a little bit of geometry. I think that's legit. Do I need to worry about stitching too far into this? Or is that just gonna run off the edge of the fabric and it's gonna be fine? Oh, this already looks... This does not look good. This looks like that should not be in there. Is this gonna get caught in ways that are gonna cause me trouble? I'm a little worried now. Do I need to just stop this at the 4 centimeter mark? I think I should. And then the rest is just gonna get trimmed off at some point. Let me just put a pin in there to remind myself to stop. Yes, I think that's correct. Then I also need this to... In theory, I shouldn't be stitching through this at all. I should be stopping right at the edge of it. Which seems to be what's happening right now. I just need to get it pinned out of the way so that I don't get it caught. I think that checks out as well. Because once I start stitching into the lining, it stops doing the foldy thing that I want it to, right? All right. So I need to stop stitching right there. And right here. All right. I think I got this. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see what I did. It does end right about where the lining starts. That's promising. And I think I can trim most of this off. Though I gotta be careful not to cut too much out of here, because that's the part that's gonna be folded back first. At some point. Wait. Does this even make sense? Oh yeah, no, it does make sense, and I can cut most of it off. Let's... Because the line I drew is actually gonna be the stitch line, so all this extra that I have, I'm not gonna need, so most of this can just go, right? Yes. Okie dokie. Let's try not to cut any of the lining off, because I do need that. What? Oh, there was a pin still in there. I might have ruined my scissors there. Uh-oh. Oh god, what did I do? Nope. I think you have witnessed the death of my fabric scissors right there. I tried to cut into here, and I was like, why is it not cutting? And it was because there was a pin. And now I have two pretty distinct... I'm not even sure you can hear that. It's got two very distinct clacks in it now. Yeah, that's not great. All right. Moving on. Pokey stick. I need a pokey stick for the corners. A stick has appeared. Yeah, I guess. I hope that maybe I can just sort of, if there are two spots that don't cut as well as the rest, I'm kind of okay with that. Maybe I can get it to a point where at least it's not catching on itself if I sand it a little bit or something. I can even see it. Like if I hold it just at the right angle so it catches light, there's a spot right there. Right there. Yeah. Like, the more I do this, the smoother it gets. I guess because whatever rough corners I created are being broken off or something. But it's not great. Anyway. Flip the corners. Poke them with a stick. Make it nice and pointy. I guess I need to trim it a bit more, because right now this, or I need to get the seam allowance to go the other way. Hold on. This needs to go. All right, that's honestly pretty decent, I think. I'm not sure you can see. Yeah, that looks pretty pro. I like it. Yep, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, honestly. I think I've lost a little bit of my 1.5 centimeters just due to the thickness of the thing. Oh, it's actually not far off. Okay, then now I'm gonna try doing the bottom edge, which in theory maybe I can't do it all the way up to the corners. Let's see. Actually, if I fold this back, theoretically it meets up exactly at the corner where I stitched it, which is not actually all that true, because it looks like this is more, like this is further away from the edge than that 0.5 centimeter I reserved for that. So it's not lining up perfectly, but I can line it up good enough-ish that it's gonna look smooth. Yeah. I think we're good. So I'm just gonna pin this down, starting with lining up the seam lines. Half a centimeter is not much though, is it? Maybe I should have been a bit more generous, but... Ah, well, it's 0.5 centimeter from the marked line, not from the actual edge of the fabric, because there is a tiny bit extra. I guess I'm not in that much trouble. Where is my chalk? Oh, it's right there. I am very smart. Alright, so 0.5 centimeter in from there goes on this line on the back. Now I think I'm just gonna sort of pull this straight and pin wherever we end up. Because it's not gonna... Wait, why... I still can't wrap my brain around this crap. Why is my... Obviously, the edge I left is longer than the 1.5 centimeter for the corner I stitched. If I continue all the way to here, does that add up? Wait. How is that gonna end up when it's folded back? I'm just gonna flip this to see. How do I get in here? Oh. So if you plop the corner out, and then I've stitched all the way in here. Oh yeah, no, that does check out. Yeah. Oh, it's not as far off as I thought it was. Always nice to figure out that you've been more accurate than you thought you were. Because previous logic made sense, you just forgot that you did it. Okay. We're good. Center. Did I even mark the center back? I did not. Where is it? Oh, I think I also need to make a small pleat in here because I gave the entire center back a little bit more space in the lining. So, I keep forgetting the smart things I did in the past. Okay, this is... Tiny pleat goes in the center. It doesn't quite look like the center, does it? No. I think I'm a little bit off. That's more like it. Okie dokie. Okay. This is going simultaneously better and worse than I thought. Like, on the one hand, I haven't made major mistakes apart from screwing up my scissors. But on the other hand, I feel like it's taken ages. Ow. I need to stop poking myself with pins. I think I would have figured out by now that those things are sharp. I might have cut off a bit much over here. Though I think, even though I didn't see it coming, I just got a little bit lucky and didn't cut off the corner that I need. You finished mine in 3 months? Yeah, I know. It's, well, this is already my 3rd stream on this thing, but that 3 streams thing is not all the time I put into it. Like, I started streaming it after I'd finished a fitting mock-up, which also took me 3 attempts due to various mistakes in pattern drafting along the way. Alright. And I did some work in between as well. Alright, let's just get this stitched down now. I'm fairly sure that this is correct. Let's go. I'm just trying to finish it before the end of the year because A, that feels like a good deadline, and B, it needs to be finished before the kid that it's for is no longer gonna fit into it, because like, turns out kids grow, and if you spend 3 months on a project, it might be too long. I did start out making it a size larger than it was supposed to be, exactly for this reason. And I feel that that's being paid off right now. Good morning. Is the third time the charm? I'm not sure it's going to be finished today, but I think I might get close today. I think I'm gonna... what time is it now? I've been an hour and a half at this. I can definitely finish putting in the lining today. And then I think doing the ribbon on the sleeves is going to be a little bit fiddly and take a long time pinning. So maybe I'll make a start in that today, and then for next time it would only be buttonholes, I think. Which I might... like, honestly, buttonholes is that job that by the time a project comes to, oh, it just needs buttons and buttonholes, I'm like, oh, it's pretty much done. And then I can spend another bunch of hours doing the buttonholes, because you sort of test them on a scrap piece of fabric to see if the button will fit through, then you mark them, then you're super careful stitching them, because if they're a bitch to take out. And let's see if this all works. I think this checks out. I'm gonna have to press this to see whether it hangs correctly, but it looks like what I wanted it to do. I think this looks pretty good. I'm gonna just press these bottom edges flat and then move on to figuring out how the hood works. Yeah, I guess the figuring out how the hood works part is also not negligible, because I wasn't quite sure how the lining was going to fit there. This is really twisted. So that's one of the parts that I'm going to have to fold 3 times to see whether it even works. And then maybe do some hand stitching on to get it all to fit. So we'll see how that goes. Where did all these red threads come from? But first, let's just press... oh yeah, I might need to... oh no, I don't. I was gonna say I might need to do some top stitching on the fold line in the center front, but that's gonna, in the end, be held in place by the buttonholes and the buttons that are gonna get stitched through it. So we're all good there. I do want to press it though. I have a feeling that some stuff is bunched up in here. Let's see if the seam allowances are folded correctly. Spoiler, they aren't. Oh, crap. I caught the seam allowances in that stitching and it's folded over all weirdly, so I'm gonna have to unpick that part. See if I also did that on the other seam. See, this is nice and flat, but this is not. So that's gonna have to come out real quick. I think that's only a small fix though. Where's my seam ripper? That's gonna be a quick fix, I think. I'm not even gonna unplug the iron because YOLO. So, seam allowance is nice and flat this time. And we're back in pressing business. It's fairly easy to flip this jacket through the hole for the neckline. I'm kind of curious. Maybe I should just try flipping it through one of the sleeves like I will have to do after I stitch on the hood lining, just to see that it would work, because I don't... It feels very cramped. I don't fully trust it. That needs a bit more poking. feel that I should probably also put a couple of stitches maybe on the seam lines just to hold up this edge, because I feel that this is gonna, even though I'm pressing it now, feels like it might unfold very easily and look really baggy. And I don't want to do a full, I don't want to stitch it down or anything, but I might just put a stitch through here, through the seam line, where you can't see it, just to make sure it stays folded up nicely. Still not really happy with this corner. All right. And then just the front edge. Okay. So then, oops. Two things. I want to just get some black thread, which I think is this, and put just a stitch or two through here to keep it together. I think I can be real sneaky about it, even, and do it from in here somewhere, so you can't even see where I started it. This is not going to show very well on camera, but trust me, I'm doing sensible things. I'm just making a stitch exactly in the middle of a seam so that it won't show at all in the finished product. Now let's see if I can also manage to put the knot in here, and no one will know. Haha. Sometimes I feel that my evil masterminding potential has been wasted on this. Hey, Anna! Well, I'm not sure if I'm almost finished. It feels almost finished, but that is usually deceptive. I'm putting in the lining today. So, I guess that's close to finished, but at the same time, there's some trim I need to put on the edges of the sleeves. That's going to be a bit fiddly that I still need to do. And I also haven't figured out how the lining works exactly around the hood. So that's what I'm going to be working out just as soon as I've stitched down the fold at the bottom. I'm not really sure how to explain. I folded over the bottom and now I'm putting a couple of stitches in it so it stays that way. Oh, and I probably also need to trim this. Because this is way too much seam allowance. But it's kind of an inside-out mess right now, and I cannot properly explain what's happening where. I'm kind of lost myself now. I was looking for that edge that I'm currently trying to stitch through. Oh, here we are. I think it's... I think it's this part. Yeah, I did do a stitch in the ditch. And I'm trying to do the start and end of it on the inside so it doesn't show anywhere. So it's a bit of turning things inside out several times. I think that's it though. So now I can just trim the seam allowance here before I close the whole thing up. This is the center front. That can also go, I suppose. Does it? Yes, it does. it's just this bit, and then I'm gonna try, like, I've been flipping it inside out and outside out through the neckline, but since that's gonna be the next thing I'm gonna stitch together, I'm just gonna practice flipping it through the sleeve, which is what is gonna be the only thing left to flip through after I'm done with the hood, because I wanna see this work, basically. Because I'm nervous about this, because the sleeve is not that big. Let's see how this is gonna... Or maybe I should flip it through the sleeve of the lining, because it's more slippery. Because I don't trust this. I don't trust the whole jacket to go through this tiny hole. I actually feel kind of lucky that my own hand is small enough that it fits. And I know that sort of leaving a gap in the sleeve is how bagged linings tend to get flipped, but I still don't trust it. Like, this looks like a bad sausage. God. Maybe I should have started by getting a sleeve through or something, because right now it's just a mess. I'm not convinced that this is gonna work. Yeah, I guess I can still open the side of the sleeve. I wanted to do it this way because the end of the sleeve is gonna be finished with a ribbon, so it doesn't need to get stitched anyway. But yeah, I might need to just open up this to get it to go through. And then I'll just hand stitch that shut later. But it's coming. I think here we have a sleeve coming through. So I might be able to pull that out individually. This looks like a shoulder seam, right? This has to... Oh, I think this is the sleeve. Haha! I think it's actually working. This is mad. I feel like I'm giving birth. Kind of lost track now of where the actual sleeve is, but I think we're still going. And here comes another sleeve. It is born. And I think that that's the bulk of it. I think that that means pretty much there. Boom! The whole thing got turned outside out through the sleeve. So, proof that I can do it, which means... thanks for the encouragement. It looks fine though, honestly. It's I didn't have to pull as hard as I thought I needed to, so I think this is actually gonna happen. So now I can turn it inside out again, which I will be doing through the neckline while I still can. But at least I've proven now that this is possible. It's, you know, valuable. Which leaves the question of how do I actually attach the hood? Because that is something I haven't quite figured out. Because so the center front has this sort of facing. And I'm not going to do a similarly wide facing on the hood. That was going to be more narrow. So this is going to end up on a slight sort of offset. Wait, this needs to get folded in. I still need to... Oh, maybe I should do this sort of... It's not quite a mitered corner, but it's one of those flipped corners that I also still need to do. Might want to do that first. But then this is going to get folded back like here. And this part, this is going to be real chunky over here. Oh, I might need to do some aggressive clipping. But this is gonna go somewhere like here. So there's gonna be a corner like this. I think I might be able to tuck the lining of the hood, which is this side, into the folded over bit of the center front. So there's gonna be a corner like this. It sort of sticks out a little bit. So if that lining can get tucked in there, that would be excellent. And then I just need to line this up. Something like that. Not just hand stitch that part. I think that checks out. So I'm gonna not do those corners yet because I might want to tuck the lining from the hood into there. So let's flip it one more time. So, in summary, what needs to happen is this is a center front. Well, actually, this line is a center front, but this is where the lining attaches to it. So this has to be folded back like this, then stitched here, so that when it's folded out, it's a nice clean corner. This corner right there. But I probably want to catch the lining of the hood in that. When it happens, do I? What goes first now? After I stitch this, it's going to be so annoying to turn it outside out. Oh, actually, if I stitch only exactly the 2 centimeter that I need to stitch here, then I can still tuck the lining of the hood into the bit that's left by hand. I think that logic also checks out. So if I stitch only that tiny bit, I can still do enough origami to fit that in later by hand. So I just need to get this marked properly because these marking lines are garbage. And then I'll do that corner first so I can't screw it up anymore. Alright, so this corner is the one that is now going to get folded back like how? Like this. Stitched and then flipped. And I need to very much keep the seam allowance for the hood out of there. Let's just pin that up. And I'm going to need the same on the other side. Yeah, like this. Right, right. Okay, let's stitch those two corners and then figure out where to go from there. What time is it? It's about 5. Might just get the lining done. Okay, I think that's it for those corners. I'm gonna just trim the seam allowances there because that's gonna be a hell of a corner to get into afterwards. Trying not to cut into any more pins than I already have. Let's see. Now if I just go along the edges of the hood. So I need to do the same thing I did on the bottom edge, which is that there's going to be a little bit of a little bit folded over. So I need to pin a little bit outside the line on this and a little bit inside the line on this. Though probably I can just pin on the line and that will create a little bit of extra space in the lining. Like the lining will be slightly bigger than the hood itself, which I think is going to make it sit nice and floofy. So that's what I'm going to go for. I should probably be pinning this from the other side, right? Because the thing I care about is whether it's a certain distance from the edge of the black fabric. So let's flip that around. Because that is the side that actually matters. So what's everyone else up to while you're watching me tediously pin things? You're seeing your dreams of being a chess grandmaster utterly obliterated? Oh, but you've moved on to the intermediate bots. So does that mean that you're beating the easy ones now? You're searching for an industrial sewing machine. Ooh, so what projects are you making next year? That sounds like you're getting into some pretty die-hard sewing. Two cameras are showing different shades of red. Yeah, I guess it is. I guess the true color is somewhere in between, actually. Because the small cam looks a little bit purple, and the main cam looks a little bit orange. And I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's that it's some kind of... It's not fire truck red either. It's a It's a little bit more on the orangey side than Fire Truck Red, but it's just red is what it is. What I would call Gryffindor red, but then I have never been to Hogwarts, so... You want to try making something each month? Ooh! That's a project right there. It's ambitious, I like it. It's sort of every year I tell myself that I'm going to do more sewing, and every year I don't. And it feels like not long ago that I finished my my last corset. And yet when I think about it, that was when exactly? Sort of start of lockdown-ish, I guess? You've been to Hogwarts in your head? Yeah, that's... Seems about right. I guess it refers to the red that's in the movies, then, I suppose. Because where else would I be getting my Hogwarts Scholars headcanon from? Alright, so now, all the way at the edge, I need to make this not... I need this corner to sit smoothly. And so, I need it to... That's gonna be rough. I think it lines up sort of like this. Maybe I'll also leave this little bit open, just so I can adjust it a little bit to get everything nice and smooth. I'll just stop right there. And then when I flip the whole thing outside out, I'll just manually adjust all the little corner nonsense going on in here and manually stitch it down, because I can't tell whether this is gonna line up, and I don't wanna trust the math too much, because inaccuracies happen. You had a teacher tell you to plan a project by estimating time it will take. Oh yes. That is entirely correct. God. It's even just the little things that you consider to be not that big a deal that actually take a bunch of time. Like, I have so many things where it's just, oh, I just need to put in the buttonholes. And then I never do because it takes ages. And every little step of pressing or trimming or anything you do just takes more time than you think. Like, I know that when I finish putting in this lining, I'm gonna want to top stitch the edge of the hood, and that's also gonna take time. Everything takes time. And then once again, I'm just gonna stop a little bit before the end here as well, because I don't trust this. Okay, let's stitch this down then. Yeah, top stitching is totally worth it, especially because what I want is for the lining to be just inside the edge of the hood so that you can see it a lot because the contrasting color is nice. But at the same time, I don't want it sort of flopping out of the edge of the hood all the time. So definitely top stitching is going to happen there. It needs to. I'm just going to go, say, 1 stitching foot width away from this side. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think that's a good enough amount. Want to become famous. I'm fairly sure that buying followers is how you get famous. That sounds exactly like what famous people do. When bots know your name, that's when you've got it down. Screw fame. All I want is, well, I don't know. Honestly, fortune is probably better than fame. All right. I think that's it. question mark. I'm gonna trim these seam allowances a bit and then try to do that whole birthing thing through the sleeve again. How much of this do I need? It needs to go up a little bit, but not that much. So that can go. Yes. I don't know. Having enough cash to not have to work another day in my life seems like a good amount of cash. So I could just do nonsense projects like this all the time. I'd be up for that. And this doesn't need to be that big. All right, I'm gonna flip it and see what happens. Let's get rid of all the debris so I don't end up with all kinds of nonsense. Oh, there was a needle in there. Like, I don't need anything to get caught in between the outside and the lining after I close it up. I should probably, I don't know, maybe I should pull out all of these marking threads first. It's gonna take ages though. Yeah, it's kind of hard to end up with enough money to never work another day in your life. It's a bit of a tall ask. I mean, I've been putting some money aside, but I don't think that fully retiring is going to happen. All right, let's go for it. Last chance to trim anything. I think we're good. Let's flip it. I'll just flip it through the sleeve that I didn't flip it through before to evenly distribute the wear. I don't know. I think that was... This one looks more crumpled up, so probably this one. And I'm just going to start by finding the sleeves here on the inside and pulling those through first. Or at least one of them. So it's a nice slim start, I think. The kit is sort of, well, not 1.5, but not quite 2 yet either. I haven't done the exact math, but quite small. And I've made it a size bigger than he actually is right now. so that it'll still fit by the time I'm done. Maybe we'll even have to wait a little bit. But I hope so. I think it's gonna be cute. I mean, he's a little too young to have been sorted into Gryffindor by himself. But Mom is a Gryffindor, so that's how that decision was made. This is going better than I thought it was going to, honestly. Haha! I think that's it. A jacket has been worn. Okay, now let's see how I'm gonna finish up this whole shenanigans near where like the edge of the hood meets the edge of the jacket, because that is a weird corner. Let's see how this is gonna go. First, let's flip those little corners. That looks pretty crisp, but you can't see because of the black background. Ugh. This corner looks nice and crisp. I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'm not sure whether infants can get sorted, but yeah, this is the best guess we had, so... Honestly, the design has changed a little bit from the sketch that I have up on the screen. The edges of the sleeves are going to be that yellow and red stripey thing. I put a lot of effort into manually making the goddamn ribbon because I couldn't buy it anywhere. But I've added a pocket also in the Hogwarts colors. Look. It's yellow on the inside. So that's new. And... the pointy hood is not happening, and also the pointy end of the sleeve is not happening because I figured as a kid you would just drag that through the mud and it would generally not be good. Alright, so corners flipped on the center front. Now let's do some origami to make this corner all line up. So the edge of the hood goes in here somewhere. Let's just pin this the way it's going to get top stitched. And then this lining is gonna I guess I can also make the lining go in there. Ooh, this is quite neat. Yeah, it's doing the thing I thought it might do, which is promising. So now I just need to fold it in such a way that it meets exactly at the corner. That's true. Maybe what we should have done, instead of just going straight for the Gryffindor jacket, is to ask him what he wants. But he's not old enough. Like, he's barely old enough to say my name. So maybe that sorting process wouldn't have gone all that smoothly either. Let's see, I think something like... Yeah, autocorrect can be very helpful and very annoying. Let's cut this extra bit off because I don't think it's just getting in the way a little bit. Wait, I'm gonna start, I think, by manually closing this up. Because that needs to sit nice and smooth, and then I can fold in the rest of the corner, I think, correctly. So I need a little bit of this red thread. And a needle. I still got any that don't already have threads in them. Oh, this one has only a tiny bit of thread. Yep. We can test his inner powers. Ah, that is true. I, however, am not about to make 4 jackets for him to only pick one of them. Hell no. You know, when he's old enough to go to Hogwarts, maybe that's when I will have enough energy to make another one. Definitely not before. Alright, so I think I'm gonna ladder stitch this. It's been a while since I've done that, but I think it's appropriate here. See if I can get this started from the back. Because we don't want to see any knots, do we? Yeah, that actually, like, zoom sorting seems like the kind of thing we need in this day and age. Let's fold this down like so. And decide that that's where the edge is going to be. This gets tucked behind there. Which probably also should have a pin in it. Alright, and now we just fold this back. And I'm just... I think it meets up nicely like this. Let's also put more pins. More pins, always better. Alright. Now let's ladder stitch this thing together so it'll be nice and invisible. It's moving a bit more than I want it to. What is... This needs to be more that way. Why is it like... I swear this was lined up nicely before. Now I've got this big gap. What is happening? See you next time, and thanks for hanging out with me. It's always good having some company while I'm breaking my brain over how to do this. I just want something underneath this to kind of support it, because I feel that the fact that I'm holding it up with my hand is bending it this way and making it gape in bad ways. So let's just, I don't know, put a ham underneath or something to get it up to my face. Alright, I think that this is gonna... Well, this way it's not tucked in, is it? Okay, hold on. Let's get this all folded more down. Stuff that in there. There, that's it. That's how I want it to sit, and like no other way. Just, but now I've got a little bit of puckering actually. How did that just happen? Oh, I guess I can solve that by folding this back more. Yes. Like this. Alright. I think that's the final origamiing. And I can now actually stitch it in a good way. And actually the last stitch is a bit off now that I've done this, so let's just pick it out. All right, I think I finally got this. It's gonna be so pretty when it's done. I have faith. Uh-oh. No, 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 no. Don't tangle up on me now. I hate when threads do that. Oh god. I'm not sure this is gonna come out. It does come out. Yay! Alright, I think I've reached the end of the lining fabric. I just want to make sure I attach it firmly to the rest. just gonna tie 1 or 2 knots and then pull it through to the inside so that it'll be totally invisibly finished. Oh, you can't actually see what I'm doing anymore. Yeah, but honestly, this is going pretty well, I think. Just gonna wiggle it through here and cut it off. And I guess with the experience from how I managed to do this side, I can do the other side more easily. But hey, I like to think that this looks pretty smooth and pro. I like it. What time is it? 10 more minutes. Let's see if I can do this in 10 minutes. So, here is the trick. Step 1, fold the hood and tuck it into the front. And pin that a little bit. Step 2, tuck the lining into the front as well. And then get it to a point where it's even with the lining from the body. Like this. Step 3, bunch of pins. Step 4, hand stitch. Let's go. Oh, actually, I guess I should have put my needle through the back. I don't want to open it up now. I'll just have to be kind of subtle about my knot. Okay, that was a bit too subtle. That pulled right through. Okay, I'll remove this pin, hide the knot on the inside, and then pin it back. I'll try to do this so you're not looking at me doing things underneath the chat window. This was a bit suboptimal. I also kind of need this to not get caught on the pin itself, though. Alright, I've made it off of one edge of the lining, so now it's just stitching the top of the lining to that folded over facing from the center front. Alright, honestly that should be it. Just gotta tie a couple of knots to keep everything where it is. Oh yeah, actually, I lied. I still gotta do these edges. I totally forgot about that on the other side because it's just pinned down and it looks good. Alright, alright. Gotcha. Whoops. Let's go straight into that then. Just doing a tiny whip stitch, and then it should be pretty subtle. that and the buttons and the buttonholes. So I think with this, I've officially sort of finished the lining. Then I need to grab the stripy ribbon and stitch it around the ends of the sleeves. So that's going to be probably pretty fiddly because the sleeves are tiny, and I need to sort of make it act like a bias tape, for which I should probably do some ironing. And then, yeah, that's it, I think. Once I've done the top stitching around the edge of the, top stitching around the edge of the hood, finish the edge of the sleeves. Yeah, I think that's it. Buttons, buttonholes. I think I'm putting 3 buttons on it, I think. As that seemed to be a good number in testing. Right, I think that looks... Maybe I pulled it a little bit tight at the end there, so now it's a bit puckered looking. But honestly, not bad. Let's, I guess, do that little edge on the other side that I totally forgot about. And then I'm gonna call it a day, because it's dinner time. And I think I might just finish it sometime throughout this week. If I do, next week's gonna be something else. I'm not really sure what yet. I'm sure that a project will appear in the meantime. Or maybe this week I'm only gonna manage to do the sleeves, and I might need to do the buttonholes next week or something. It's also a realistic scenario, I think. But yeah, honestly, I didn't fully expect to finish the lining today because it felt kind of daunting. So, I'm kind of pleased with how today went. Oh yeah, I think we all forget the day of the week in these interesting times. It's a good thing I have a like Monday to Friday job to keep me on track of what's when. I do try to put up the this sort of the streaming event on YouTube, usually on a Saturday. So hopefully you'll get a notification of that, so you'll remember that it happens. But I don't blame you if you don't. think that's it, actually. Alright, that's it. I did it. I did it. I attached a lining. Boop. Perfect. So just to sort of show it off a little bit, let's put the sleeve linings in the sleeves. Hello. So those are still gonna have to be finished. But everything else, it's actually starting to look kind of like a jacket now. Check that out. Just need to get on top stitching the hood, but hey, I think it's starting to look like something. So thanks everyone for hanging out with me while I worked on it. It's always nice to have some company while I'm breaking my brain over how to do this. Otherwise I would have probably given up at some point halfway through. So thanks a lot for hanging out and giving